You're trespassing. Officers, arrest him. That man stole my land. Her voice pierced the morning air like a rusty blade. 4 police cruisers pulled up to my dirt driveway, lights flashing like it was a crime scene. I was barefoot, standing on my porch with a cup of black coffee and a half-eaten biscuit. My old Labrador, Rusty, gave a lazy growl but didn't move. He'd seen worse. Sir, step down. We need to speak with you, one of the officers called out, and there she was. Karen, in her usual power stance, high heels sinking into the gravel, a manila folder in one hand and entitlement in the other. I've already sold this property to my brother-in-law's nephew, she announced, loud enough for the cows 3 fields over to hear. This squatter refuses to leave. I want him prosecuted immediately. I blinked. I said slowly, this is my land. My name's on the deed. No one sold anything. But they didn't care. Not yet. That's when Rusty perked up. I turned my head and saw a cloud of dust rising behind the barn. 6 pickup trucks were heading my way, fast. And I knew then, she made one big mistake. She thought I was alone, but I wasn't. Hey folks. Before we dive deep into this wild HOA story, do us a quick favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you love seeing justice served, and drop a comment with where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these Karen tales travel. Texas, Ohio, maybe even Alaska. Alright, buckle up, this is one for the books. I wasn't always a countryman. A year ago, I was living in a condo in San Diego, trying to drink away a bad divorce and a worse job. But when Uncle Jack passed, he left me his 80-acre pecan farm in East Texas. I figured, why not? Might as well breathe some real air for once. At first, it was paradise. Birds chirping, morning coffee on the porch, no screaming neighbors or honking horns. But then came her, Karen with a spoon, head of the Willow Creek HOA. A woman with a clipboard in one hand, a glass of lemon water in the other, and rage simmering just beneath her Botoxed smile. She lived half a mile down the road, in the kind of gated community where all the houses looked like they were copy-pasted from a real estate brochure. She spotted me the day I moved in. Said my tractor was unsightly and my boots were disruptive to the aesthetic environment. She wasn't joking. The first week, she dropped off a welcome to the neighborhood letter, which was actually a printed list of community codes and recommendations for behavior. I wasn't even part of the HOA. But that didn't stop her. Second week, she filed a noise complaint because my rooster crowed before sunrise. Third week, I caught her peeking through my barn windows with a measuring tape. Can I help you? I asked, sweat dripping from my brow as I hauled bales of hay. She didn't blink. Just checking the setback distance. This structure might be in violation of proposed zoning updates. That was her favorite phrase, proposed zoning updates. By the end of the month, she had convinced the HOA board to submit a petition to the county trying to annex my land into their jurisdiction. I wasn't invited to the meeting. I only found out because a teenager who mowed lawns for both of us overheard her talking about finally civilizing the farm. It got worse. One morning, I woke up to find a for sale BY owner sign staked into my driveway. I hadn't listed the property. Karen had. Then came the mysterious surveyors. And the orange spray paint marks along my fence line. And a real estate agent trying to take drone footage of my barn. That's when I knew she wasn't just annoying. She was planning something. I installed cameras. Kept every letter she sent. Logged every visit. Even put up trail cams along the tree line, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened the day she brought the cops. The sheriff tried to keep a straight face, but even he couldn't hide the twitch in his cheek when Karen slipped on Rusty's water bowl and went flying, face first, into a pile of composted manure behind the barn. Her neon pink blazer squelched audibly on impact. Silence, even the flies paused. Then Rusty gave a single approving whiff. One of the deputies coughed into his fist, failing to cover up a laugh. My neighbor Wade, who'd arrived with the others in his muddy Dodge, muttered, "Damn, that's justice, right there." Karen sat up slowly, her sunglasses cracked down the middle, her French twist unraveling like a cheap party streamer. "This is assault," she shrieked. "He trained that animal to attack me." "Lady," I said, arms folded, "you tripped over a dog bowl in heels." That's not assault. That's physics. The officer with the mustache, Officer Denton, stepped forward, clearly trying to salvage the last shreds of protocol. We are going to need to see the document you claim shows a transfer of this property. Still smeared. In mud and pride, Karen pulled a paper from her folder and shoved it into his hands. The thing looked like it had been made in Microsoft Word by someone with a hangover, highlighter everywhere. A clip art seal in the corner. Buyer listed as Braden. Witherspoon, family spelled wrong. No county signature, no parcel number, no notary. Nothing. Officer Denton blinked slowly. This, he said, isn't a legal document. It's not even a believable forgery. Karen's eye twitched. Oh, it's real. The HOA approved it. HOAs don't have the authority to transfer land they don't own. That's when Levi stepped forward, holding the thick, worn leather folder that had belonged to Uncle Jack. Here's the real deed, he said. County certified, notarized. Been in our family 63 years. You'll find everything in order. The officers flipped through the pages. Seals, stamps, dates, names, all legit. Well, Officer Denton said finally, handing the fake deed back to Karen like it was a dead fish. That settles that. Karen looked pale, like she'd just swallowed a toad. This was a misunderstanding, she said quickly. I was trying to help. This ranch is a disgrace. The weeds. The animals. The flag on the porch. I took a step down from the porch and stood toe to toe with her. You don't get to decide what someone else's home should be, Karen. You sure as hell don't get to forge papers and call the cops. A few more neighbors were pulling up now. Folks from down the road, from outside the HOA walls. One of them, old Mrs. Harlan, squinted and said, "Aren't you the woman who told my grandson he couldn't play guitar on his own porch because it ruined the neighborhood vibe?" Karen turned, eyes wide. That boy was playing LYNYRD at full volume. Good taste in music, I muttered. Then Mr. Phillips, who ran the local hardware store, stepped forward. Is it true you were planning to bulldoze the barn? Said you wanted to build a racquetball court. Karen's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. It was just an idea. A vision. Asterisk. Oh, I've got a vision too, Levi said. It involves a court case and a mugshot. Karen huffed. This whole ranch is a code violation. It doesn't belong here. He doesn't belong here. That's when Officer Denton raised his voice and... You're not under arrest yet, but you are being cited for filing a false police report. And you are now trespassing. You need to leave. Her jaw dropped. You're taking his side. No. I'm taking the side of the law. She stood there a moment longer, her whole body trembling. Then, with a dramatic spin, she stomped toward her white Lexus, which, ironically, got stuck in the mud as she tried to peel out. Took her 3 tries and a ruined undercarriage to get away. I stood still for a long while after the dust settled. Neighbors came up, offered support, shook my hand, even apologized for believing Karen's gossip. For a moment, I felt hope, but it didn't last. Later that evening, I got an email from the county clerk's office, attached, a zoning petition submitted by Karen Witherspoon and signed by 12 HOA members. Subject line, proposed reclassification of agricultural property to shared recreational space. I stared at the screen. This woman wasn't done. Not even close. The next few days felt like living under a slow-moving storm cloud. She didn't call the cops again. She didn't set foot on my land. Instead, she got smarter. Slimier. First came the letters, slipped under my gate like snakes. Sealed in gold-embossed HOA envelopes. They were written by her legal representative, which, upon closer inspection, was actually her cousin Larry, who once got kicked out of paralegal school for plagiarizing from a Judge Judy transcript. The letters were full of fake citations, misquoted bylaws, and demands like, cease all farm operations involving roosters, goats, or culturally disruptive decor. Yeah. She meant my porch flag again. Then came the noise complaints, 3. In one day. 4. 1. Tractor too loud. 2. Horse neighing aggressively at 6:45 a.m. 3. Unlicensed folk music. That last one. That was just me playing the harmonica on the porch. I knew what she was doing. She was trying to build a case, make me look like a public nuisance. Like I was unfit to own land. One morning, I woke up to find my front gate unlatched. Nothing was taken, but Rusty was barking like mad at the woods. In the dirt, tire tracks. Fresh, another day, a man in a polo shirt and HOA lanyard knocked on my door, clipboard in hand, trying to inspect the premises for community beautification compliance. I asked him if he could read the private property not under HOA sign by the road. He laughed nervously. Karen said you were open to negotiation. I shut the door in his face, then, just to be petty, I played Free Bird at full volume. For the rest of the afternoon, and through it all, she smiled. At the diner. At the gas station. In the school parking lot where she tried to warn the parents that I had unsecured fencing and potentially rabid livestock. She was pushing me to snap. Because if I did, she'd win.so I didn't. I documented everything. Time, date, photo, witness. I even gave Rusty a GoPro collar, just in case, but in my gut, I knew something bigger was coming. The silence between her moves was too strategic, and then Rusty barked again. This time, he didn't stop. On the fourth day of the silent siege, as I started calling it, something weird happened. I was out by the orchard fixing a busted irrigation pipe when I heard the unmistakable hum of a drone overhead. Looked up, there it was, a chunky little quadcopter hovering low over my barn like a robotic mosquito. I waved at it. It didn't move. Just hovered. Rusty barked. I grabbed my shotgun. Now I'm not a violent man. But I also don't like being watched by buzzing plastic spies with HOA-approved stickers on the side. So I fired a single round into the air, not at it, just next to it. The drone spun like a drunk mosquito and zipped off toward the HOA subdivision. Next thing I know, I'm getting an email from Lindholm and Associates claiming I had threatened aerial equipment with malicious intent. They also included a blurry screenshot of me holding my shotgun, cropped just enough to make it look like I was aiming straight up at the thing. No context. No explanation. Just manipulation. That night, someone dumped a full bag of spoiled kale clippings over my fence. My goats were offended. Even they didn't eat it. Then, during the next town council meeting, Karen stood up and gave a speech, a whole speech, about how rogue landowners were threatening the moral fabric of the Willow Creek community. She never named me directly, but she ended her speech with, "We don't need guns, goats, or guitars in our shared view line." People clapped. Not many. But enough. I came home and sat on my porch till after midnight. Just thinking, Karen had power. Not real power, but loud power. She knew how to spin stories. She knew which buttons to press, and now she had Charles. The zoning complaint was a chess move. The drone, a pawn. The kale. Honestly, I didn't even know what that was supposed to be. But it smelled like war. Still, I didn't bite. I stayed quiet, prepared. I moved my most important papers into a fireproof lockbox. Had Levi install motion-triggered floodlights on every corner of the barn. And I left one porch light on, always, waiting, because when people like Karen run out of rules to bend, they go feral. That night, Rusty wouldn't stop barking. At first I thought it was just raccoons. But when I stepped out onto the porch, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The barn doors were wide open and every single stall empty. Gone. My 6 horses, including Ranger, my uncle's prize stallion, just gone. I ran to the barn in my pajama pants and boots, flashlight shaking in my hand. The dirt was torn up, hoof prints everywhere. Rusty dashed along the fence line, nose to the ground, tail stiff. Then I saw it, a message spray painted on the side of the barn in big, red, dripping letters, "You don't belong here." It felt like the ground was falling out from under me. I grabbed my phone and called Levi. He answered on the second ring. "They took the horses," I said, my voice hollow. "Silence, I'll be there in 5. By 2:30 a.m., every one of my ranch hands was on site. Flashlights swinging. Gravel crunching under boots. No one spoke above a whisper. "Tracks go out that way," Levi muttered, kneeling by the back fence. "Looks like they used a stock trailer. Dual wheels. Heavy rig." Maria, still in her robe and muck boots, held up a snapped halter. They used bolt cutters. Clean cut. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from rage. They took Ranger. I said. That wasn't random. That was personal. You think it was her? Levi asked. I didn't even blink. Of course it was her. But stealing horses? That's felony territory. That's not Karen-level petty anymore. No, I said. This is her losing control. And trying to make me look like I can't control anything. That's when it hit me. The trail cams. After Karen's last stunt with the fake surveyors, I'd installed motion-triggered trail cameras all along the back fence. I sprinted to the oak tree near the property line, ripped the SD card out of the hidden cam, and shoved it into my reader. We huddled around the small screen. Static. Branches. Then movement. 1:47 a.m., a black Ford F-250 with a trailer. Backed up to the side gate. 1:49 a.m., two figures exited the cab. One tall, bald guy. And next to him, even in grainy night vision, that blonde bob and overcompensating shoulder pads were unmistakable, Karen. I exhaled through my teeth. We got her, I said, voice flat. Now let's make her pay. We drove straight to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Daniels, a broad-shouldered man with eyes like granite and hands that looked like they could crush coconuts, watched the footage 3 times. You're absolutely sure that's her? He asked. I'd bet this entire ranch on it. He nodded slowly. That's good. Real good. But we'll need to find the horses. If they crossed county lines, this gets federal. That's livestock theft, interstate. Serious jail time. By dawn, word had already gotten out. Someone had posted a blurry screenshot of the spray paint message in the East Texas Livestock Facebook group. Comments flooded in. This is a hate crime against hay. Don't mess with Texas horses. Karen needs Jesus. Or jail. By noon, I got the call. They found them. All 6 horses, including Ranger, were located at a small boarding stable 2 towns over. The owner had been paid cash by a woman with short blonde hair to keep the animals safe from a neglectful rancher. She said you abandoned them, he told the deputies. Of course she did, but he gave a statement. Signed and sealed. The horses were back by that evening. Nervous. But safe. I stood in the pasture with Ranger's muzzle pressed into my hand and Rusty curled up by my boot. For the first time in days, I let myself breathe, but just as peace began to settle in, my phone buzzed. Voicemail. Blocked number. I hit play. And her voice slithered through the speaker like a snake in the grass. You may think you've won this round. But you have no idea who you're dealing with. My husband is on the zoning board now. And we've already filed a formal complaint with the State Agricultural Commission. You'll be out by the end of the month. Beep. My thumb froze over the screen. She wasn't done. Now it wasn't just about the land. Now it was personal, and she just declared war. I replayed her voicemail 3 times. You'll be out by the end of the month. Her voice was smug, venomous. She thought she had me cornered. But what she didn't know was, I don't fold. I fight. Next morning, I met again with Sheriff Daniels. He confirmed that charges were in motion: criminal trespass, livestock theft, falsifying documents. But the zoning complaint she mentioned, that was the real threat. Now she's buying time, he warned. Playing legal games wilder. Board scrambles. And then he leaned in. Her husband, Charles Lindholm, he was just appointed vice chairman of the county zoning board. Quiet appointment. No press. No notice. My jaw clenched. It all made sense now. The slow pressure. The setup. The arrogance. Karen wasn't freelancing anymore. She'd built a chessboard. And she thought she was 6 moves ahead, but she forgot who she was playing against. By the end of the week, I'd hired a new lawyer, not just some local guy, but a federal property rights bulldog from Austin named Curtis Fieldman. He wore steel-toe boots with a 3-piece suit and had a handshake like a vice grip. You've got a textbook case of coordinated HOA harassment, he said, flipping through the folder of evidence I gave him. We are talking felony charges, state code violations, even federal real estate fraud. He pulled out a pen. Asterisk. You want to bring the hammer down? I nodded. Hard. He smiled. Let's build you a sledgehammer. While Curtis prepared the legal tsunami, I rallied the town. We printed flyers, save the ranch, say no to the HOA takeover community. Rally, Saturday, 4 p.m. Guest speaker, Ranger the horse face. We stapled them to every post, tree, and window in town. People came. Dozens. Then hundreds. Old-timers. Families. Kids I taught to ride. Veterans. Farmers. Even the mayor showed up with a pick and pie and we stand with the ranch button. We turned the barn into a stage. Rusty wore a bandana. Ranger got a braid in his manner. The community brought food, chairs, signs. I stood on a hay bale with a MIC in my hand and a fire in my chest. Karen with a spoon forged documents. She stole my horses. She's trying to rezone land that's been in my family for 63 years. And now her husband's abusing power from inside the board. This isn't just about me. This is about all of us. If they can do this to me, they can do it to anyone. The crowd exploded in cheers, and just when it felt like a movie, they arrived, Karen and Charles, she in a black pantsuit and oversized pearls. He in a pressed suit holding a clipboard. They stood by the fence, silently watching. No smiles. No waves. Karen smirked once. I smirked back harder. 3 days later, the zoning board hearing, the county building was packed wall to wall. Standing room only. Cameras. Reporters. Even people from outside the county. I was called first. I presented the real deed. I submitted the trail cam footage. I handed over sworn letters from vets, neighbors, and the horse stable owner. And then I said just one thing: this ranch is legacy. It's history. And I will not let power-hungry liars erase that with a clipboard and a signature. Then Charles stood. He adjusted his tie, cleared his throat. We don't question Ms. Grant's passion, he said. But passion does not equate to sustainable property management. We've received complaints about noise, unsightly structures, and, he squinted, flagrant non-compliance with neighborhood aesthetics. The room shifted. You could feel it then, a voice from the back: we got video of your wife stealing horses, pal. Laughter rippled. Then silence. Sheriff Daniels stood up. Before you continue, I'd like to submit a sworn affidavit confirming Ms. Witherspoon's involvement in criminal trespassing, theft, and fraudulent zoning activity. He dropped a folder on the board's desk like it was a gavel. Karen's face white as drywall. She stood. Grabbed her purse. Stormed out. Didn't say a word. Charles stayed behind, blinking, sweating. The board called a recess when they returned. It was over. The petition to rezone is denied. This matter is closed. Applause erupted like thunder. Someone handed me a slice of pie. Rusty licked a baby's face. Boomers howled in victory from every corner of the room, but just when I thought it was done, I got one last visit. A week later. Rain pouring. Thunder rolling. A knock at the door. It was her. No pearls. No blazer. No SUV, just a wrinkled sweater. Smeared mascara and a bottle of wine in a brown paper bag. I came to talk, she said. I'm not interested, I replied. You've got 5 seconds before I call the sheriff. She didn't flinch. You think you won. But you didn't. You're just lucky. That land should have been mine. You don't deserve it. I looked her dead in the eye. I earned this land. You destroy. I build. And now everyone saw it. She stepped back. Rain dripping from her nose. You know what, she hissed, enjoy your stupid dirt. I'm moving. But you'll always know I almost took it from you. That'll haunt you. I smiled, slowly. No, Karen. What'll haunt you is knowing everyone saw you lose. And I closed the door. Weeks passed. Karen and Charles both resigned from the HOA. Rumors flew: misused funds, FBI interest, anonymous letters. I didn't care. I was done. The fence got rebuilt, stronger than ever. I planted wildflowers along the southern line, right where that fake lake sign once stood. The horses were healthy. The town was on my side. Rusty still watched the gate. He didn't bark much anymore, but I never forgot. To every Karen out there, you can lie, forge, and cheat, but you'll never steal legacy, not on my land. Not on my watch. Make sure you like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what's the craziest thing a Karen has done in your neighborhood. And stay tuned. More insane HOA drama is coming soon.